Hey YouTube, Happy New Year's!
So last year we had a lot of fun putting together our best and worst people and issues of 2012.
Calling people out.
Yep. Yeah. So this year we thought we would do that again. So I'm going to take on all the nice people and
of course I like to rant, so I'm going to call out all the bad people.
Yeah.
So if you misbehave, you're on my list.
But we may not necessarily hit everybody who would be on your list.
We're not talking about the Pope or Phil Robertson. I mean, everybody and their mother have talked about them.
My mother did.
Yeah, well, she probably did. No. Not in the way we want her to talk about them.
Well, anyway.
Yeah.
So...
we should have stuck your mom on the list.
So not nice.
Sorry.
Anyway, so... let's just launch into it. So I'm gonna do my top 5 nice people. Jay's gonna do his top 5 not so nice people. But number 5 for us is our son Daniel, and the letter he wrote to Chief Justice John Roberts. And he brought up the one fact that we were very proud of him for, and that's that family isn't always the people that you're born to. Family's bigger than blood, and it's the people who love and take care of you. Take a look.
I recently found out that you yourself adopted 2 kids, a boy and a girl, kind of like me and my sister. Family means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but some people believe that you have to have the same blood to be considered a family. You and I both know that family goes deeper than blood.
Okay, so the number 5 spot on my list actually belongs to a lesbian. So LGBT people are not necessarily excluded from this list, and a lot of times they're the people that I'm most frustrated with because they actually should know better. And number 5 goes to a waitress out of New Jersey by the name of Dana Morales.
Were we all duped? That's what a customer now claims after that restaurant receipt went viral, making national headlines.
Well, Shibanchek, it's a case of she said, they said. It was days after that story aired that a Bridgewater couple noticed their copy of the bill looked remarkably like the one waitress Dana Morales posted online, except not only did they say they generously tipped her, but they never wrote that hateful message, and it's possible it was all made up.
Okay, so I was super angry when I found out this whole thing was a fraud. Basically, Dana Morales decided to get a little bit of publicity for herself and basically write a note on this receipt and cause all this uproar. As you guys know, people came out from the woodworks to support her, and people were really pissed off at this so-called family that stiffed her on her tip and left this really nasty note.
Okay, so number 4 is somebody who you may not necessarily have heard from in a while, and that's Prison Break star Wentworth Miller.
Oh, you know of him.
Yeah, take a look at this picture. See, now
wow.
I know you remember that.
I watched that show, and if I had known he was gay, that show would have had so much more meaning for me.
Wentworth Miller recently came out of the closet, but he did so in a letter to a LGBT film festival in Russia. They had invited him to come and host the event. And
what kind of film festival?
It was an international film festival.
Yeah. I thought you said LGBT.
I might have.
Yeah,
but it was an international film festival.
Yeah.
And he wrote them a very nice letter back saying... let me get it for you. Thank you for your kind invitation. As someone who has enjoyed visiting Russia in the past and can also claim a degree of Russian ancestry, it would make me happy to say yes. However, as a gay man, I must decline. I am deeply troubled by the current attitude toward and treatment of gay men and women by the Russian government. The situation is in no way acceptable, and I cannot in good conscience participate in a celebratory occasion hosted by a country where people like myself are being systematically denied their basic right to live and love openly.
He said a lot.
He did. But It was, for somebody who really had no skin in the game but other than the fact that he was gay, it was a big statement to make.
And we were very proud of him.
Yeah.
And the thing about his coming out is he didn't do it for publicity. He didn't do it to promote a book or a movie. He basically did it as a response to a homophobic country that's passing laws against their gay people. So I was super proud of him. And I was super shocked. He's one of the, lately we've been having all these people coming out, and I'm kind of like, he wasn't out already?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I thought they were out like years ago. So when he came out, I was actually like, really? Wow, cool. Which brings me to my number 4 on the worst of the year. Now, I'm not going to rant about these guys too much because I don't want to get you guys yelling at me, oh, leave him alone, leave them alone, they're good people. But I've been very, very disappointed this year on people who actually did the opposite of what Wentworth did. They actually went to Russia and they basically broke the boycott. I mean, the Russian LGBT people in Russia have been asking the international community to boycott Russia, to not come support the government and their anti-gay laws. And there were several people who said, I'm going to do it anyways. And a couple of those people were Elton John, who went and had his concert there, which I was really disappointed in. You had Thomas Roberts, who's a newscaster here on MSNBC. And I actually really like him, and we met him at the Pride Parade. He was a Grand Marshal this last year with us, and he was really nice to the kids, unlike some people who were not so nice. We're not going to name names, but they were really rude to our kids. So whether you agree with the winter protest, the boycott of the Olympics, I'm really disappointed in people who actually went and participated in Russia events this year.
Who said they were going to bring an LGBT voice to Russia and to bring it
but really didn't do anything.
But didn't. They went for a paycheck.
Yeah, pretty much. They went for a paycheck. So that takes us to your number 3.
We're back to the nice list. Ding! Number 3, I have written U.S. District Judge Robert J. Shelby. Who the heck is that, you may ask?
Utah.
And that's because we're all still shocked that Utah...
Isn't he an activist judge?
No, he's not. He's just a judge. He's just a judge, people. That's all he is. So people are still going, Utah? I can't believe of all the places to get same-sex marriage, it's Utah. And that's how people respond to it.
Yeah. Utah? And most Americans, they don't know the geography, so they're like, where's Utah?
No, yeah.
Okay, so on to number 3 of the naughty list. And this goes out to Utah's governor and attorney general. Governor Gary R. Herbert made the statement, I am very disappointed in that activist federal judge for basically not caring about what the rest of people in Utah decided to say or how they voted and legalized gay marriage in Utah, which I think is kind of funny considering that, the LDS church, if we went on what people voted, would probably not be a church in this country, considering that they were run out of the country, 100 years ago, 80 years ago, 90 years ago. This governor and the attorney general are going to spend almost $2 million this year fighting marriage equality in Utah. So basically, instead of taking that money and actually being a good Christian and spending it on feeding the poor, taking care of people, giving housing to people, because we were actually in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was blown away by the number of homeless people we saw there.
Not that we don't have our own, mind you.
No, I'm just saying.
It's true,
that,
there were a lot.
And on a side note, all the marriages have actually brought in almost $100,000 in state fees. Mm-hmm. So the money that's going to be coming in from these marriages, which are harming nobody, is going to go into the coffers for this governor to actually use to fight them, which I think is super hypocritical. But
there's even a man who's so bent about this, he's going on a hunger strike until the marriages stop.
Well, I mean, good luck.
Yeah, well.
He may...
Let's hope there's a doctor on hand.
Which takes us probably to your number 2.
So my number 2 are names you probably know and have heard from us before, but they're Ted Olson and David Boies. And that's because the striking down of Prop 8 was such a big deal for us.
And not only Prop 8, DOMA.
Yeah. But at any rate, Ted Olson and David Boies did a very courageous thing in coming together and taking on this case. They came from the two different sides of the political aisle to come together to take on this issue. Neither one of them being gay themselves. It was obviously something that they believed in. Both of them found merits in it from their own political points of view and came together and really did an incredible job for us here in California.
And my number 2 centers around Phil Robertson, but it's not going to be Phil Robertson because Phil Robertson is a homophobic bigot, and we all know that. And he basically has used his freedom of speech to basically attack LGBT people all around the country. He didn't just do it in one interview. He's actually traveled around to churches talking about how gay people are the big problem in the country and how we're evil. It's A&E for backing down. A&E is one of those channels where I actually do watch some of their shows. I watch their Storage Wars. I watch their house flipping shows. Well, let me say I used to watch those shows because I'm a reality junkie. but I will no longer be watching those shows anymore. A&E took a moral stance. They basically, when they signed Phil Robertson, they knew about his homophobic speeches, they knew about his homophobic attitude, and they had him sign a contract. And in the contract, he said that he would not go around the country or talk about his beliefs when it came to homosexuality or segregation, because those are hot button issues, and A&E is concerned about, the bottom line, money. So once he violated that contract, their managers came out and basically said that you are now attacking A&E employees. You're making them uncomfortable by making these statements, so we're going to suspend you. So A&E backed down. Their so-called suspension of Phil Robertson was a joke. I mean, they basically didn't suspend him at all because during the suspension he was off. Anyways, they weren't filming. So A&E has decided to let him back on the show, which basically will start my boycott of A&E. I will not be watching any shows on A&E, which in the long run probably
makes
doesn't
two
matter.
of us, but I guess it doesn't matter that I wasn't watching them anyway.
So A&E, boo. Okay, back to the positive.
Okay.
Did I wear you out with my talk?
You did. It was emotionally draining.
Sorry.
Okay, so my number one is somebody who's up a notch from last year, who was in my number two.
She was your number
spot.
2.
She was my number 2, but now she's my number 1.
Are you running out of heroes?
No, she actually is still near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And when The Advocate put someone else on the cover, then
this year's top person?
I was scandalized that it was not. My number 1, which was Eddie Windsor.
Yeah. Is it Edith Windsor or Eddie Windsor?
It's Edith, shortened to Eddie Windsor.
I like Edith.
Yeah, and she is this adorable little lady who they call the unlikely activist because she had the chutzpah to take on the government concerning DOMA. And because of her case, because of the excellent representation that they had, pretty much DOMA is dead and gone for all intents and purposes. And I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. So I have to give a big thank you to Eddie Windsor, and she should have been on the cover of The Advocate and Time Magazine as the person of the year.
I don't know about Time Magazine. I definitely agree with The Advocate.
I would write her name in the sky if I could.
Well, you could. You could go out and hire a plane and do it in the sky. Yeah. And she probably would see it if you do it over her house. Okay, my number 1, the worst offender of the year, who is really disgusting and I really can't stand, is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. And he basically started out this year with banning gay adoptions and single-parent adoptions because he did not want LGBT people adopting all of those poor Russian children who are stuck in orphanages all around the country. So that was his first shot. Then he decided to make it illegal for people outside the country, tourists, to come in and spread gay propaganda or be homosexual. So basically, if you live outside of Russia and you come into Russia and you set up a youth group or you try to help LGBT people in the country, you could be arrested for 14 days and kicked out of the country. So that,
if you happen to use certain letters of the alphabet, LGBT, together in a very,
just being homosexual and a tourist, you can be arrested and kicked out of the country, which is crazy in a modern country. Now, he made it even worse. He started banning his own people from having any type of LGBT groups or parades or get-togethers. I mean, he has basically taken an all-out war on the LGBT community in Russia.
And we know why this happens. And it's because he's trying to distract attention away from himself and away from his policies.
Government. Also, just on a side note, I actually was I was trying to get a YouTube group together to go to Russia this year during the Olympics, and I wanted to do a protest there. And I was really disappointed in all of my fellow YouTubers. I'm not going to name names. I mean, there's some of the big ones who we have contacts with. Not a single one would do it. They said that it was dangerous and it's not something they were interested in participating in. I personally think that we as LGBT people, we need to use our voices and we need to stand up for people with no voice. The worst thing I think would have happened to me I would have been arrested in Russia and kicked out of the country. Brian was not on board with me going, but I figured if I had some other big YouTubers going with me, it was something that we could do together. I still am looking for a way to do something in Russia and have an impact, and I would love to hear from you guys out there. How in 2014 can we change what's happening in Russia and around the world when it comes to our LGBT brothers and sisters?
And don't say send a card.
Yeah, no. That's not, you shouldn't take a shot at Davey Wavy like that. That's so not nice.
I don't got no problems against Davey Wavy. I'm just saying.
Me.
We need to do something that would make an impact.
So now that Daddy Brian has took a shot at Davey Wavy,
I'm not taking a shot at Davey
we
Wavy.
can wrap up this video and wish you guys all Happy New Year's, and we'll hopefully see a lot more positives than negatives on next year's list.
All right.
Bye.
Happy New Year's.